Before we begin, I want to reset the way you think about IRCC applications. If you're a DIY applicant, chances are you've spent a lot of time studying the official document checklist and making sure every required file is uploaded correctly. That effort is important, but it's not what determines approval. IRCC officers do not approve applications because they are complete. They approve applications because eligibility has been clearly demonstrated. This presentation is about what officers assess beyond the checklist and why understanding this distinction is critical for avoiding preventable refusals. One of the most common and most dangerous assumptions DIY applicants make is believing that checklist completion equals meeting requirements. It feels logical. You follow the instructions, submit everything requested, and expect the system to work. But in reality, the checklist only confirms that your application is eligible to be reviewed. It does not confirm that your application is ready to be approved. Approval depends on how convincingly your eligibility is communicated, not whether every box has been checked. To understand this properly, we need to be very clear about the purpose of the IRCC document checklist. The checklist exists to ensure minimum documentation is submitted so that processing can begin. What it does not do is explain how officers will interpret those documents, what concerns they may have, or how much explanation is enough. The checklist governs administrative completeness, not decision-making. Confusing these two standards is one of the most common reasons otherwise qualified applications fail. When an IRCC officer reviews an application, they do not assess documents one by one in isolation. They assess the application as a whole. Forms, letters, timelines, and evidence are read together to determine whether the application tells a clear, consistent, and credible story. If an officer needs to make assumptions to understand your case, that uncertainty becomes risk, and risk is exactly what officers are trained to identify and manage. This brings us to a critical distinction: submission standards versus decision standards. Submitting documents satisfies a procedural requirement. Approval requires the officer to be satisfied that eligibility has been proven. Many refused applications were technically complete. They failed not because something was missing, but because the officer was not convinced. And under Canadian immigration law, the burden of proof always rests with the applicant, not the officer. This explains why applications with all required documents can still be refused. Refusals often occur when explanations are unclear, evidence does not directly support claims, or inconsistencies raise unanswered questions. Officers are not required to ask for clarification. If they are not satisfied based on what is submitted, refusal is a legally valid outcome. Clarity at the time of submission is therefore essential. The first major factor officers assess beyond the checklist is consistency. They cross-reference information across forms, employment records, education documents, travel history, and financial evidence. Even small discrepancies, such as mismatched dates or job titles, can raise credibility concerns if they are not clearly explained. Consistency is not about perfection. It's about ensuring that your documents tell the same story without contradiction. The second factor is credibility of the overall narrative. Officers assess whether your claims are believable in context, logically explained, and supported by evidence. They are not judging individual documents in isolation. They are evaluating whether your background, experience, and explanations make sense together as a whole. A weak narrative can undermine strong documents. The third factor is clarity. IRCC officers are not required to infer intent or fill in gaps on your behalf. If there are employment gaps, career changes, timeline inconsistencies, or unusual circumstances, it is the applicant's responsibility to explain them clearly. Unexplained issues are often interpreted as risk even when documents are otherwise complete. The fourth factor is alignment with program eligibility requirements. Each immigration program is designed for a specific type of applicant profile. Officers assess whether your background logically fits the program you selected, not just whether you meet the minimum criteria. An application that technically qualifies but lacks logical alignment may still be refused. The fifth factor is sufficiency of evidence. Submitting a document does not automatically prove a claim. Employment letters must demonstrate relevant duties, not just job titles. Financial documents must clearly establish available funds and their source. Educational records must support the qualifications being claimed. Officers assess whether the evidence is strong enough, not merely whether it exists. To conclude, the IRCC document checklist ensures completeness, but officer assessment determines outcomes. Applications are approved when eligibility is demonstrated clearly, consistently, and credibly. For DIY applicants, understanding what officers assess beyond the checklist is essential. Addressing clarity, consistency, credibility, and alignment before submission can significantly reduce refusal risk. Preparing your application from an officer's perspective before submission is always more effective than trying to fix problems after a refusal. Before we wrap up, I want to leave you with one practical thought. If you're a DIY applicant and your documents are mostly ready, but you want a professional, officer-focused review before submission to check clarity, consistency, and potential risks, you can visit the IRCC document review page linked below or scan the QR code. This is not a filing service, and it doesn't guarantee approval. Its purpose is simple: to help you communicate your eligibility clearly and effectively. If you're still in the learning phase and want to better understand how IRCC officers actually review applications, what they look for beyond the checklist, and how decisions are made in practice, you can also explore our IRCC Knowledge Hub. Both links are in the description. Choose the path that fits where you are right now. At Fly to Canada, we don't just show you how to fly to Canada, we help you truly land with clarity, preparation, and confidence.